the Public Sector Workers Union have been reacting to this. Bernard Ajay is General Secretary of the group, joins us via Zoom now. But Bernard, even as I welcome you, first of all, I'd want you to listen to the Information Minister, Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, speak last night on the probe, where he's been justifying the policy measures of the Finance Minister. He says, for instance, that the President has not lost trust in him.
Democracy. We are in a democracy. You're going to get calls from various places about various things. What you do is you ask yourself, what are the key value drivers? This is a finance minister who from 2017 to 2019, leading the charge, we saw how the Ghanaian economy with its own challenges still delivered some numbers. This is a finance minister who, when we were hit by 2020, we saw how he was able to lead for us to rally to get the necessary buffers in place to respond. We are now in 2020. He was pretty optimistic that we can still do it domestically. The domestic program has been challenged. I have explained to you the various challenges the domestic program has suffered. And contrary to his initial position, the boss takes a decision that this is what I want my administration to do. And has put together a task force to start working on it for it to happen. You may have those who say, yes, he should fire the finance minister. But go back to, for example, President Mills and Dr. Kwabena Dufo. Go back to President Mahama, who interestingly made this call a few days ago, and his finance minister at the time, my very good friend, Mrs. Sektekbe. The history will tell you that presidents have a lot of confidence in their finance ministers until you can prove otherwise. In our case, even the more, if you look at the work that our finance minister has led us to do in the first part before these pandemics hit us, it will not support that argument that because he was initially of the view that we can do this domestically, he should be fired. No, I don't think we'll support
So he still has the support of the president and the party at large?
That is mine.
Right, so the finance minister has the support of the president, but what do the Public Services Workers Union think about this? Joining me now is Bernard Ajay, secretary for the group. They believe, first of all, that the IMF program will have dire consequences for the public sector. Bernard, do you want to be drawn into the conversation surrounding the performance of the finance minister, for instance?
You bet I don't want to be drawn into that conversation.
Yeah,
because,
just to play safe, I guess.
Obviously, the president has the mandate of Ghanaians to manage the economy and the country. And if he finds the finance minister as the best person to lead that economic agenda, that is his choice. But of course, we are Ghanaians, we are workers, and therefore we can only speak to the effects that their actions are having on us. And if the president believes that that is not what he wants for Ghanaians, and therefore the finance minister is either doing his bidding or what he wants or otherwise, I think that's an entirely decision for him to make.
Right,
yeah.
That's a diplomatic answer there. Now to the crux of the issues. Let's talk about your position on the IMF program. You believe that there are consequences for the public sector. What particularly is your fear about the program?
Exactly so. I mean, this will not be the first time that Ghana is going to the IMF throughout our history. We've all seen what the impact of an IMF intervention in our economy have had on us. We would have wished, and it's the position of Labour, we've stuck to that. We've been consistent that IMF would never be the solution to our economic problems and woes until we learn as a country and as a people to sit up and do things properly and ensure that the economy or the country is run for the benefit of the citizens. And especially in this case, I will speak for the workers, public service workers for that matter, until we do things that will ensure that the ordinary citizens, the ordinary workers benefit from it, we don't find the IMF as a solution to our woes. What happens? They come, they take the whip, they crack the whip and make sure they whip you into line so that you are in a situation where you can pay your debts to these countries who virtually also control the IMF. And at the end of the day, they leave the economy for you. And what happens? It goes back. So we in Labour, and for that matter, the Public Service Workers Union, are not for an IMF program. it only brings austerity measures that compounds the situation of workers. Whatever is happening since COVID time up to now, we don't see the real support that our economy or the government has really given to workers. Things getting worse by the day. Our salary levels are nothing to write home about. 2021, 2022, we all know the sacrifice workers made by the kind of increases we got, 4%, 7%, which were virtually wiped out in the next 2 months. And workers are really suffering.
All right,
Food prices are very high. Transportation costs are very high. Everything is high. Workers are struggling. We don't see any help. And going for an IMF program is only going to compound the situation for workers. And we think that the government is not really thinking about us as workers and the citizenry.
Is that really the case? Is that really the case? Speak to this for me. You've been accused, and I mean by extension workers in the public sector, of contributing to the wastage in government. You've heard that on countless occasions. What's your reaction?
Well, we've heard that ever since I started working with Labour. I have heard that several times. But why don't we let people take responsibility? How has public sector workers contributed to what is happening? Now, if I go to work as a public service or sector worker, am I my own supervisor? Am I my own manager? And if I'm not working, what processes have I been taken through? Who has come out to say I didn't come to work and I didn't do what I was given to do? When would we learn to take responsibilities for things that we are responsible for? Workers always go to work. They make themselves available to work for this country to grow. If the one who is to supervise or who is to make available funds to do things, or should I use my salary to buy goods and services?
So you believe it's more about leadership? So you believe it's more about leadership?
I mean, what are we talking about? If we say workers are not performing, I mean, who is in charge? Who is responsible? And we come on air, we say this thing, and we are happy about it. I come to work, I need a car to move.
Hello, Bernard. Appears. Okay, Bernard, you'd want to just quickly reposition yourself and make the point you're making once more. But one final question to you. The point about the alternative. What's the alternative of the public sector workers union on all of this? Particularly when we're being warned now by government that if we do not turn to the IMF, there'll be a serious impact on the economy. Bernard, if you can hear me, I'm just asking about the alternative. It appears that we'll have to get back to that conversation, but thank you so much for joining us. That's the General Secretary of the Public Sector's Workers Union, Bernard J, giving us their position there. There's a lot more happening in terms of the economy. They might